All right, it is time to do CSS battle. Uh, like yesterday, I'm gonna start off not with a speed run, but with more of a how would people who aren't used to CSS battle approach this? Uh, so most of the time, I feel like people are using Flex today because it deals with a lot of stuff pretty easily. Um, so I'm trying to use Flex to make some of these. If I'm gonna approach these using Flex, that's fine, but I'm gonna have to rethink some things. I'm gonna change the way I'm doing selectors and be more obvious with what my selectors are. So I'm gonna select my HTML and I'm gonna make the background purple. Uh, nested selectors. I don't know what to do about this. I'm gonna go ahead and use nested selectors. I'm going to select my body. I'm going to put an outline on it so I can see it. Outline 1Q, solid red. There is the body where it is right now. I'm going to margin the body in. Margin. I don't know what it is, 50 and 100, something like that. Not quite. 50 and 90. Okay, that's okay. As long as I have this box here, I might as well use it. So let's do border inline. I'm going 20 pixels solid. The light color, that's actually correct. That looks correct. Okay, so I have that. So this is the container that I'm going to put things in. I need things if I want to put them in a container. So if this is my container, I'm going to do display flex direction column justify content center. Let's do that in a minute. Let's do that in a minute. Okay. Now here's the container that I have created. Obviously, I need to put two balls in the container, and I need whatever this is. This can be a number of things. I don't know. A lot of times in CSS Battle, instead of using divs, we use paragraph tags. I'm going to try it with divs here. I'm not used to using divs. I'm going to be bad at it. That's all. I'm going to be bad at it. Div. So the way I'm thinking about this right now is I want a ball div, a whatever this is, and I have some ideas, and then another ball div. So I'm going to put on this one, I'm going to put class, I have to type class correctly, class, ball, and then I want that on the third one also. So if I don't have 3 right now, I have 2. So that makes it hard to put it on the third one. There is a third one, and now it has a class of ball. All right, so now don't do that ball. Let's just put the outline on that, and we can see that we have this basically red line means our divs don't have any size. So let's say height. I don't know where it's 100. That actually looks pretty good. That doesn't look terrible. Let's say background is this. Let's say border radius is 50% because that's what you do when you want to draw a circle. And now they're kind of oblongs, ellipsoidal sort of things, so we need to margin them in a little bit. So let's say margin. I don't think I want top and bottom margin, but maybe some side margin. That's too much. That's not enough. That looks not that awful. Now they're not in exactly the right place, but we need to put something in between them. We already have our div up here, right? We have our ball div, then we have an unlabeled div, and then we have another ball. Let's go ahead and give this one a class. I don't know what to call it. I'm just going to call it gap, and I'm not going to use caps. All right. So we have another selector for that thing. Let's go ahead and write some CSS, a CSS selector for it. Let's move our outline so that we can see this thing. Let's give it a height, 10 pixels. Doesn't look quite tall enough. And I didn't type the word pixels. Yeah. Height needs to be more, but it needs margin minus 10 and 0. And now the balls aren't exactly right, but they're close. I think I need a little gap. Maybe? Gap 10 pixels? That may be too much. 5. All right, let's try something else. Let's put a little margin. I pull it up, minus 5 pixels, and 10, 15. That seems to be working-ish, except it's pushed the bottom down too far. Okay. Instead of doing that, let's try this. Say 0 here. That's minus 10 currently. What if it's 0? What if it's minus 5? And then what if we have 5, 0 on the bottom? Oh, it just makes it too tall. Can we put minus 5 here? And then 5 here. 10. No, not minus 10. 0 minus 5. Oh, we're gonna continue having this problem because every time, are we? Yeah, every time we push, oh, that works. Okay, we got it. We're pushing this down, which is forcing our container to get a little bigger, but I think we finally found a happy place in there. Now, the problem that we're left with is our horizontal element is not correct. It's not right. So this is our gap. We have an outline on it right here, but it's not correct. So what we can do on that is we can do a border inline. I don't know what the number is, 40 pixels, solid, this color. We can get rid of our outline. And that should be a solution. Yeah. Yeah, that's not bad. I mean, it's 300, well, it's 550 characters, but if we minified it, it would be 350 characters. And then, of course, we could do silly things. We can make, instead of saying class ball, we make class B, right? And then that saves us some characters. Same thing for gap. We don't use class gap, we use class G. And that saves us some characters. So now we're, instead of 350, we're at 340 characters. Now, there are a lot of ways to, I don't know, make this shorter as it is. I mean, we can delete some stuff that we're not using, like gap 0. That's not helpful. That one we need. We're in this comment we don't need. That'll save us some characters. We can also cheat with a bunch of stuff. We can get rid of characters where we don't need them as long as we keep them where we do need them. Need them there. We have border inline twice. Once it's 20 picks. Okay. So we're using border inline here. Okay, this isn't going to save us any characters at this point, but I want to discuss a technique for this, and this is a basic technique. So if I have multiple border inline declarations that are mostly the same but are slightly different, one of the things I can do is define a variable. So here I could say var, and I can name it mostly whatever I want. It has to start with 2 dashes, but whatever I want. I'm going to call this B for border. And that didn't change anything, but I declared, oh, it's not going to work though. Okay. I declared a variable B and said the default value of B is 20 pixels. So now down here, instead of writing this, my idea was that we could just say B 40 pixels. And ta-da, it works. The problem is that this G selector isn't inheriting this border from anything. And I'm afraid, yeah, that's what's wrong with star. Okay, I just figured out something unrelated. I'll talk. I don't know. Anyway, that's not inherited. So if I wanted to do that, I could have a star selector here that has that, and then this just works. So star selector is basically anything. Everything under the sun has this border inline thing. Doesn't really matter for, I don't know why it doesn't matter for this. I would think it would. Doesn't seem to. Seems happy. Okay, so we're down to 470 characters now. Let's submit that. We could also, is that going to help? Not going to help now. The other thing that we could do, instead of using these class declarations, we can cheat a little bit more. We can instead just say div B and div B, and then change this selector to an attribute selector. Same thing here. Instead of saying class G, we just want G, and we use an attribute selector here. Saves us some more characters. One of the reasons, where am I? Oh, also technically, I could probably get away. Close. I could put it there. Right. Yeah, I could put it there and get rid of the HTML selector completely. Don't need this. So now I probably broke things. Don't need this. Didn't think I did. Oh, because now that's selecting that. I do need it. Sorry, I'm wrong. Yeah, I mean, there are some other tricks we can do. We can go searching for Q values and that sort of stuff, percentages on margins. But let's also, we can probably cheat a little bit here. Maybe not. Yeah, because we're using flex, it's not going to work that way. A lot of times you can get rid of closing, you can get rid of the element closing statements. But I think because we're using flex, well, and the fact that we're using divs, if we use paragraphs, this might be different, but divs and paragraphs are different in that manner in the way that they're interpreted. So the fact that we used divs, which is what you would use if you don't know any better, and by not know any better, aren't accustomed to some of the CSS battle tricks. Perfectly logical thing to do. Yeah. So that's the way I would approach it using flex. There's another approach, which is kind of a lot of times people are using flex today because it manages being able to resize stuff very well. We're not resizing stuff in CSS Battle. So there's another trick that is common. I'm going to start simple again. I'm going to start with HTML. I'm going to say background purple. I'm going to select my body. And on the body, I'm going to say position fixed. You can use position absolute too. Fixed is a shorter word. It's not exactly the same, but for CSS Battle purposes, they're almost interchangeable. I'm going to say margin. Actually, I'm going to put an outline on it first. Going to solid red. Okay, this time I have my diff already on, so you can't see it. You see a little red dot up here in the corner. By each saying position fixed, we've said everything needs to have its own location. It needs to be placed somewhere, or it's not going to have size. So we can say top 50, left, I don't know what it is, 80 or 90, something like that. Width, let's call it 200, and height, let's say 180. I don't know if none of these are probably right. I'm guessing the size. Okay, so top isn't 50, it's 42. We have some default margin from the body coming in here that's making these numbers a little bit weird. It kind of is what it is. Width's 220, height's going to be 200. Looks right. Same as before, border 20 pixels, solid, this color, and it's going to be border inline. Now, one thing to note, we do not have border box turned on. We can turn it on, it's just a lot of characters. So we just deal with the fact that border box isn't on, and we make the width 180. All right, there's our body. Now, this time, I'm going to add a paragraph tag instead of a div. We're going to move our outline down to that paragraph tag so we can locate it. There it is. It needs a height and width just like the body does. So height, I think they're 100. I can just say 100. That may or may not be right. Width 100. Border radius 50%. Left 50. Nope, 150. Why is that not working? Oh, you know why? I don't have position fixed on paragraphs. That's why. And top 10, 40, 30. Looks like 30 to 28. 28 looks right. Again, margins from the body are coming into play here. The other thing that we can do if we don't want all of these weird margins, so we can say margin 0 on the body, which moves everything a bit. Now top is going to be 50. Left is going to be 90. Then this top's going to be 30. The reason we might not do that is because we want less characters. But let's get the background of this correct. Doesn't look quite right. 28, 27, 29. Something's weird. I don't know what. Something's weird though. Anyway, we're going to continue and see if we get into a 99% problem later. All right. Then I need another paragraph tag because I need another ball. So I just got rid of that closing paragraph tag, which put another paragraph tag in my DOM. So I'm going to add a selector for that, but I need to put a semicolon here first or nothing's going to work. And I'm going to say top 100, 150, 140, 141, 39. That actually doesn't look that bad. And then I need to do the last two little bits over there on the edges. We could use whatever kind of tag we want. We'll put the outline on them. This needs a plus or we're never going to select anything. And I'm going to make it two more of those things. We're going to turn on the outline. Now we see the thing. We're going to say height 20, border radius 0, width 40, left 0, okay, left 100 and 10, top, last top was 139, this one's going to be 110, 20, 5, turn the outline off, 4, there is that one, then we need one more, plus P, left 250. That was a surprisingly good guess. All right, now get rid of our outline comment. We're currently at 645 characters. That's a lot. Let's go ahead and submit. Okay, what are some things that we can do to minimize the character count here? Well, obviously get rid of spaces, but we have a button for that. We can minify and we'll get down to 308. But is there anything else we can do? I mean, it's kind of the problem with this. Is that a match even? Did we check? Yeah, 645. That's what we got. We got a match. Okay. The problem with this approach is it's pretty easy to get a match, but it's really hard to reuse stuff because everything is so specific to the one thing that it's doing. So are there some opportunities to minimize that? Yeah. There is one more approach that we can take. Well, there's more than one. There's one more approach that we can take that includes not using position fixed, but using just other things to try to get stuff into place. I'm just going to delete everything and start over. It's going to be easier. I'll be less confused by stuff. I'm going to start the same way. HTML selector. Background, purple. But while we're doing this, we're selecting the HTML here, and then we immediately margin in the body. Why don't we just margin in the HTML? Let's put an outline on this. Outline 1Q, solid red. If you can't tell, that's kind of my trick for finding stuff. You can't see this one because of the edge of the viewport, so let's margin 50, 90. That may or may not be the right values. Yeah, that is correct. So now we just brought the HTML in instead of the body. We can just like on the HTML say border inline 20 pixels solid this color. At least I say we can. Why is that not work? Oh, because I not typed correctly. There we go. So there we have the sides of our thing. Now, how do we want to do the rest? I mean, there are some ways. There certainly are some ways to get away with that. One thing that we could do is And I'm thinking, sorry, I'm slow. This is going to be a long video again today. Body. And I think the problem with, yeah. So one of the things that I was thinking of is using a radial gradient. I don't do that on my first solution, but I'm not against radial gradients or gradients in general to create this circle, and we could force it to repeat and create this circle. But because of the way that circle's interacting with the edge of my HTML, that may be a challenge. I don't know. Let's see. Let's move our outline down to the body. And we can say margin, let's say minus 20, 0, maybe more than we need, minus 10. And let's put a background here. Background radial gradient. It's going to go from this color to transparent. It's going to be, get a 1Q for the aspect ratio. You could say 1 pixel, 1 pixel here and make the aspect ratio a circle, but that's, whoops, 1Q is less characters. This is going to be 50 pixels. Then we need a position and a size so that we can get it to repeat. I'm going to start with 0 on the position. I don't know where it went. Horizontally, we want this to repeat at its size, say 100 pixels. That's too much, or not enough. Let's say 200 pixels. 190, 180. Trying to find the middle so we don't have to reset it. And then this is going to be 110 pixels, something like that. And then it needs an offset 100 pixels. 90, wrong way, 110. Okay, there is that. We have that portion of the problem solved with a gradient. Now we need to do the little side pieces. I mean, we already explored a couple ways to do that. We're going to add a paragraph tag, which means we need to put it in the DOM. Let's move our outline down to the paragraph tag. There it is. It's going to need a height, H-E-I-G-H-T of 20 pixels. That pushes things around a little bit, but let's see if we can fix that. Margin, it's going to have a top margin of, I don't know, 100 pixels. Also background 0. So what is that doing? That's moving, that's forcing the body to move around. We can deal with some margin collapse sometimes by adding a period to get margin collapse to work. Sometimes we also have to specify a height on our body, which I don't remember what it was, 200 pixels to 20. That looks better. Now this margin needs to be more like 80 and 0. And that looks pretty not terrible. It's a little bit wrong. Period messing us up a little bit. Yeah. Okay, now we just need border inline 40 pixels solid. Is that color still there? Yes. We get rid of the outline and let's submit. So this approach that we've taken is the shortest one that we've done so far. We haven't minified this one at all. There are a bunch of things we can save in here. Those all need pixel values. This can be Q, that needs pixel value. This might be able to be a percentage. Let's get rid of that closing bracket. So this is a shorter solution. It's not necessarily the best one out there, but it is shorter. We can play some other games if we want to. Instead of using HTML selector, we can use star selector, which messes some stuff up. Now, why does it mess some stuff up? It messes some stuff up because this border inline statement, I think this is the problem, gets inherited by everybody. So we can have an ampersand selector that contains that, and then that doesn't get inherited and everybody else is still happy. Now, instead of having our body selector, we can use shorthand. We can say star and select everything that is nested underneath this star, which the first thing is our body. Now, fortunately for us, we're already overriding background here. If we don't override it, that background bleeds through. Is there a way to deal with that that is shorter than redeclaring the background? Well, almost always the answer is yes. So what we can do is take this 50 pixel value and we can use our little tool down here where we can convert between units, and we can find out that that's the same as 7x. I tend to have trouble using x values on my machine using Chrome. There's a difference between the back end and the front end and some of the user agent styles. Yeah, that's not a match. Usually I can't use X unless I play with it a little bit. Let's try M. We could also maybe get away with line heights, not any shorter. Let's try M. Let's see if that's a match. Yeah, that is a match. Now, because we are using a font-based value here, instead of setting background 0, we can say font 0 and get the same thing. We get this light part of the background basically to go to 0, so it doesn't exist on the paragraph tag. It's just transparent. And so that saves us redeclaring that. We can get rid of the value there. That's going to be what it is. That, I mean, we could try this a different way and use an at. I don't know if it's going to be any shorter. We could use a variable for this, but it's not going to save us any characters. Well, especially since border is not inherited. We're not inheriting border down from our HTML to our paragraph tag, so the variable trick's not going to work because it never sees that variable. So this is a shorter one. Let's go ahead and minify. There's a unit replace tool, unit replace. There's some more units that we could work on in there, but let's go ahead and submit codify on unit replace. Yeah, that'll do. After variable file 3.13M. Okay, so we have. Oh, did that not work? No, it didn't. Oh no. Is this a match? Yeah, this is a match. Okay, so oh, I know what happened. Unit replace. Hmm. Minify. Submit. Oh no, something's wrong. Codify. Something is wrong. Oh, 5 so 40 pixels. That's what's wrong. Minify. Submit. So the unit replace looks for common replacements of things. So in that particular case, I had 40 pixels. A common replacement for 40 pixels is, I don't remember what it was, 5 characters. But since we declared font 0, that was breaking that. What can I do for that? It can be 5VW? Nope. VH. Nope. There, 10VW. It's not as good as 5CH, but it's the same as 40 pixels, so it doesn't matter. Okay. Yeah, there's this way to do it, which is better. Is it a good way to do it yet. I don't know. Is there a better way to do it? Of course. I may not know it, but there is a better way to do it. I'm going to start with that. I don't know what I'm going to do with it yet. I actually do know what I'm going to do. I'm going to pause. I'm going to try to work something out quickly. Do I want to do that? I don't know. No. I'm going to pause because I'm going to sit here and think anyway, so I'm just going to pause. All right, I'm back from like a minute of thinking and cheating. Saw another idea that was interesting. I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull it off, but what I'm going to do is on my HTML, I'm going to say border log. 100 pixels dotted this color. So where does that get us? That gets us that dot. Is this going to help us? I think I also need a background, but I think it's that color. Also, right now, I want to select just the HTML, so I'm not, it's hard to figure out what's going on when you're styling two things at once and not intending to. So what I want to do now is I'm going to put an outline. I'm going to use solid red on this. I'm going to margin it in. I'm going to margin it 50 and 90, something like that. More. 110. 20, 30, 40, 50. That's close to correct. It's not correct. That's worrisome. 52, nope. 48. 7, 6, 5. That actually looks correct. Okay, so we have that. Now, we're going to use star selector to select our body. And we're going to put the outline on our body so we can see what it's doing. Right now, it's not doing much for us. So we're going to margin. We're going to start with margin 0. Okay, that's going to give us the extent of our body right now. I plan to use the body element to draw these two outside goalposts. So with where that is, it's not very helpful for that. So we need to be like minus 50. So that's close on the sides. Minus 60 might work on the sides. Top and bottom need to be more. It's like minus 80, 90, 100. No, less than that. 95. Looks close-ish. And then we're going to say border inline, 20 pixels, solid, same color. Is it still there? No, it's not. We need that one. Okay. That's pretty cool. One thing to note, however, we're declaring this color on both border statements. So we can just cheat and say, nope, not that. We can say color, it's that. And then we can get rid of that and that. Now, for some reason, color, oh, I know why. Color, if it's applied to just the HTML, even if the HTML isn't inherited via star, the color prop still works. That's because color is inherited via CSS. That's the way it works. Color comes from a parent unless somebody tells it otherwise. So the parent, in this case, the HTML, has that color, so the body has the same color unless we give it a different color. So it just works without without having to worry about your selectors. All right, we need one more thing, which is these side things. I'm not going to do anything different than I've done every time, which is add a paragraph tag. Well, I did it different the first time. And then we're going to move our outline to the paragraph tag so that we can see where it is and what it is right now. All right, it needs some margin. So let's start with margin 0. That's a start. It needs a height of 20. And it's already pretty close to what we want. It's in the wrong place. So can we margin 50 and 0? Kinda. That's kinda doing some things. But it's pulling our body around, which is unfortunate. And if we want it to do this, we would have to redeclare the border to be 40 pixels. And then how would we deal with the rest of this? That's better. Okay, getting closer. That's pretty close. 72. Will that work without the outline? Let's look at the diff. That looks pretty good. That is indeed a match. So that's a workable solution. However, okay. So this is the shape we want. It's just the wrong size. So let's try something. Let's try scale 2. All right. Now that's wrong. But what if we said height was 10? And then what if we said we had more margins? What if the margins were something like that? Okay, not right, but you get some hope. 44, 45, 75, 76, 77. That looks pretty good. Let's see if it matches. It is a match. We still need this -5. We do indeed. Our things get mad. What if instead of scale we try to use zoom? I'm a zoom idiot. Let's make the margins different. 50. What is this doing? Let's put our outline back. Okay, there's the thing. We need less side margins. What is it doing? Let's move it down. 25. That actually doesn't look bad at all. 37, 36. And get rid of our outline again. That's not terrible. All right. We're down to 164. Let's go ahead and unit replace. And there's some stuff you can chase here. Obviously that doesn't need to be there. Color somewhere we declared with a pound sign that we don't need. We need this, right? Can't get away without it. Nope, we need it. Unless I do something else clever somewhere that could probably add a height to the body, which would solve it, but you know. All right. that's where I'm going to leave it. This is a long video today, 45 minutes. Wow. Okay. Um, yeah, that's where I am today, 157. Let's minify and submit. Yeah, that's where I am today. Long video. If you watched, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.